Emil, it's Emil Guillermo. Let me take off my glasses. Yeah, it's me. Oh, no, you put them back on. Yeah, it's me. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil, I'm up to you. How are you? Did you miss me? I mean, I just could not do it on Friday. I tried the John Madden Memorial headset here, which gives me total control. Uh, I couldn't even, well, I could get my headset on, but you can't tell, but I was kind of chipmunky on my face because I had oral surgery. Now, they didn't say it was oral surgery. They said, oh, we're going to extract a tooth. And so I said, oh, extract a tooth. Well, extracting tooth, extracting truth. I mean, same diff, right? Can't be painful. Well, they put you out, and it really is not just a procedure that you get done at a dentist office. It can actually be oral surgery. So I should know this. I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, but I guess when they took out my wisdom teeth, I lost my wisdom also because I said, okay, let's just do this. And I was prepared, but I thought, oh, I'll get it done, I'll get it extracted, and then boom, I'll just come back and talk. But I'd be spitting up blood, and because they yank your tooth out. Right in the middle of the procedure, I thought, oh, I knew I should have maybe just waited because it just didn't feel like the tooth was going to come out. It felt like the tooth had a mind of its own, saying, I've been with you all this time, Emil. I kind of like to hang out with it till the end. And I would have done so, but there was an infection and, it was complicated. And so the tooth came out, but I wasn't put out, but I was numb and in moderate pain, not really like so out of it that I couldn't talk. But I realized, and it had to be something real if I had to cancel or not, run a repeat because Friday's usually a Dan Gonzalez show. Professor Dan comes on with me, and we usually jawbone a lot about stuff because tomorrow we talk about politics generally, and I wanted to talk to him about how, well, number one, how prescient he was when we talked about conspiracy theories and whatnot. We talked about that on Friday the 13th, and then Friday the 14th, boom, we had the shootings in Buffalo, and we're going to talk more about that a little bit today because there was a Washington Post poll that kind of got dumped on the weekends on Saturday, and people might have missed it. But I think it's important. We'll talk about that. But there was the shooting in Buffalo a week ago Saturday, and then on Sunday we had the Laguna Woods shooting in LA, and then they tied it up with the the Dallas shooting in Koreatown. They made an arrest. We talked about that on Thursday and Friday, or Thursday's show. So I wanted to talk to Dan about that on Friday, and I couldn't because my jaw was just, I was swollen. I was all puffy and chipmunky. And I thought, okay, well, give the audience a break. And you guys know what to do when I'm not here. You just go to Facebook.com to emilguillermo.media and go back through all the old shows, all the shows you missed. And I'm sure there are a lot of them. You can also go to YouTube, and you can go to the Emil Guillermo channel there, and also go to at Emil Amok on Twitter, which, some people who like Twitter can go there if you like the interface there. Also, you can go to amok.com. That's where I put all the shows. So there you have it. I mean, it's like how to find Emil when he's not here, how to bask in all the shows that the collected shows of Emil Amok That's how you do it. Anyway, so here we are Monday, and it's a good Monday to you. I thought I could get away with not talking about Biden to Asia. But then the president, who is the leading American for Asian Americans, our president, he went to Asia, he went to Tokyo, and started talking. He had a press conference, and wouldn't you know, he'd say something that would raise some questions like, what are we doing with Taiwan? Now, we know this is an important thing because that was the Laguna Woods shooting. David Chu, or Cho, Chou, from Las Vegas, rather despondent, went to Los Angeles, to the Orange County area, and staked out this Taiwanese church, Taiwanese Protestant congregation. And then he went in and shot it up. 6 people shot, 1 fatally. And we also know that he sent his diary to the World Journal, which is a pro-Taiwan newspaper. And he talked about how there's one China. You know, if you're talking, he's not for Taiwanese independence. He's for one China. And so, you know, there are people here in the United States who have immigrated here or are born here, or have relatives in Taiwan or relatives in the mainland. It is a divisive issue among Chinese Americans, the largest Asian American group. And on the heels of that shooting, there's Joe Biden going to Tokyo to bring together Asian American countries to talk about a newly formed consortium of countries. And wouldn't you know, the thing that he makes news on, the very first thing he makes news on is on the Taiwan question. So I want to talk about that today because that's big. Also coming up today, we'll talk about the Golden State Warriors, because truth be told, the Golden State Warriors are, generally speaking, if you're a West Coast Asian American, I know you probably like the Lakers a little bit, and maybe a few of you like the Clippers, but the Golden State Warriors, Asian American team. And we'll talk about, they went up 3-0 over the Mavs. That was a good series. They came back, they won on Friday and they won on Sunday. And it looks like they are going to be in the finals against the Celtics, who play tonight. And a lot of people, I mean, I have Boston connections. I like the Celtics. But after what happened the other day with the Heat, look, I like the Heat too. The Heat have Eric Spoelstra, Filipino-American head coach. So I'm kind of partial to Spoelstra a little bit, but we'll talk about that today as well. I talked about my tooth. I mean, it's good. I'm on a liquid diet because you don't want to like mess up your tooth. What does that mean? That means you can only eat like soups and purees and mashed potatoes. My beloved berries and teff. I love teff. No grains, because grains can get caught in your teeth. Berries, the seeds, oh, forget that. So I'm just eating liquids. I'm on a solid food vacation, as the raw vegan guru likes to say, John Rose. Solid food vacation, and I've lost like incredibly. Well, not incredibly, but you know, if you're on a solid food vacation, you're going to lose about like 3 or 4 pounds. But one thing I've discovered, I've started squatting. Yeah, I started squatting. And I'll talk about that a little later too. So let's get into the big part of our show today here on Emil Amok's Take Out My Takes on All Things Considerable. And there are a lot of things worth considering. I call this the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs, although you don't have to be a part of the larger group. You can just be in ALL, all the rest of you, because, this pertains to all of us. I use the ethnic window to talk about things, but it pertains to all of us. And so I have a confession to make. We need a little swooper sound. Yeah, I have a confession to make today. I actually went to a party. Yeah. A party? I didn't bring the gong. I didn't wear barong Tagalog either, but I went to a party. A friend of mine was having a party celebrating a major event in her life. So my wife and I said, okay, we got to go. We went. And despite the fact that COVID numbers are rising everywhere, throughout the country, rising in the East Coast, especially, rising a bit in the Bay Area, a bit throughout California. But we decided we would go. And I'm going to talk about how I decided, but this gets into today's topic of strategic ambiguity. And it came up when Joe Biden started talking about Taiwan today. Strategic ambiguity is the strategy that says it's sometimes helpful to speak out of both sides of your mouth. I know. I can say speaking out of one side of my mouth because of my tooth extraction, I know how valuable it is to speak out of both sides of your mouth. It certainly is good for international diplomacy. But I don't think it's good for COVID policy. So I'll explain, and I'll give you a way to develop your own data to make important personal choices. But first, let's talk about this global diplomacy, this global stage where the nation's number one American who leads Asian Americans, President Joe Biden, he's in Tokyo and he's making news, he's taking a somewhat extreme stand on China. Here's why I think it's extreme. He was asked at a news conference about the U.S.'s willingness to defend Taiwan militarily if China were to invade. If China were to invade. Here's why I think it's extreme, because extreme means, hey, he would do X, and X is specific. That would be extreme, because heretofore he hasn't been that extreme. He's been more strategically ambiguous. But when he was asked the question in Tokyo, there wasn't much hesitation. He said, yes, the U.S. would be willing to defend. Yes, he said, in the typical Biden, curt, blunt style. You ask a question, he'll say yes and yes, or yes and no, or no and no, or he'll just go one-word answer, yes. That's what he said. And when asked for clarification, the president said, if Taiwan, were taken by force, it's just not appropriate. Meaning, the taking by force, not appropriate. Military aid to Taiwan would be considered to be appropriate and forthcoming. So that made the headlines. That set off the ding, 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 ding on the wire service machines. But the reports have it that Biden's aides went all bug-eyed. No, we can't have that. Biden's aide saying, no, he didn't say. Yes, he did say that. Got to put it on Do Not Disturb there. But really, see, this is the idea about strategic ambiguity. The aides went all bug-eyed because that had been the policy. The prevailing stance of the U.S. has been not to commit one way or the other, to keep everyone guessing. And it keeps us guessing, too, not just China. So since that news conference that broke around 5 a.m. today, Pacific time, aides have gone out of the way to say nothing has changed in U.S. policy, and they began walking back all the statements that Biden made. The yes became a walk back, but try walking back to Washington from China or from Asia. It's a long, mostly wet walk. Now, does this help or hurt relations with China? Well, I mean, it makes the Taiwanese feel a little more secure that the U.S. is backing them, backing the Taiwanese. It should make other nations feel secure that when push, not Bush, when push comes to shove, as long as Biden is in there, hey, there's no ambiguity. You saw it. Biden was speaking from the heart. China, of course, is furious. But what are they going to do? I mean, cry on Putin's shoulder? Stop sending items to Walmart? And what's China going to do? So you got to give Biden some credit for at least speaking some truth. He made people pay attention to this visit to Asia, where he's laying out some economic proposals that are in such a nascent stage, it's really barely worth talking about. But his blunt answer may not have been strategic on China, but if you were worried about your ancestral home as an AAPI, a Biden yes from the heart reveals an unspoken commitment to an independent Taiwan. And that is good news. But strategic ambiguity doesn't necessarily work in all cases. It doesn't work for COVID, for example. What do I mean? Well, I mean, look, we got 1 million people dead in America. We can't afford strategic ambiguity with COVID, not anymore. And that's why I was a little surprised about Dr. Ashish Jha. He's, our guy, right? He's our Asian American guy, the White House pandemic coordinator. I guess, they put him in charge, and he did that. He's a doctor. He's not just a bureaucrat. Takes a little load off Dr. Sanjay Gupta, right? And all the other Guptas out there who are reporting, and they're not really the pandemic, policy experts, but Ashish Jha, public health expert, Harvard, Brown, he's on leave from Brown. And he's normally a straight shooter. But Jha was asked a straight question on PBS the other day, and it kind of surprised me. He's talking about the pandemic. Here's the question from PBS. The question was, if we're in a position where we need to wear masks again indoors, do you think there's enough political will for lawmakers or elected officials to make that case and for the American people to actually listen? This isn't important. This is the question, right? We got 1 million people dead. Now, officially, by whatever count, New York Times count, NBC count, CDC count, whatever count you want, we got 1 million Americans dead. So here's the question, right? The question's relevant. Politicians, if the numbers are rising, we got to mask indoors again, will there be political will? And forget the political will, is there personal will to mask up by Americans? We could have used a yes to political will. Yes, we have political will. Or yes to personal will. Yes, we have personal will. At least that would have given us some sense of straight shooting kind of hope, right? That would be a good kind of blunt and direct answer. Something that, frankly, we haven't had much in the pandemic. Instead, this is the answer. This is the transcribed answer from Jha. He said, people are tired of this pandemic. We understand that. Unfortunately, the virus is not done with its work. In other words, I know you're tired, but we're not done with this. That would have been more direct. Because here's what he said after that. Quote, as we look to the fall and winter, what I'm paying attention to right now is watching the virus evolve. We've got to pay very close attention to what happens. If we do see a new wave of infections, we want to be ready with a new generation of vaccines and treatments. I've always believed, Jeff, that was the name of the reporter, that masking is an important part of keeping your infection numbers low. And I think we're going to want to get that message out to people that are in areas with high infection numbers. Masking is going to be an important tool to keeping infections low and letting us get through the fall and winter without substantial disruption. So, I guess he's saying to mask without saying directly, let's mask. He's saying, I'm going to watch it evolve and let's mask. But if you listen to that, it just sounds like a bunch of political speak. Semi-nuanced, but not direct enough. Remember, the question was, if we're in a position where we need to wear masks again indoors, do you think there's enough political will for lawmakers, elected officials to make that case? Did he answer that? Kind of not really. You should have said, well, I would hope the politicians could make that case, and I'll help them by giving them data. And then the other question was, and for the American people to actually listen to them. Well, I hope we're not so stupid that we don't listen to the best case. So I guess Ja was doing his job as he's a politician, really, not an elected one, but he was playing a political game because I didn't hear anything as clear as, can we expect military assistance for Taiwan if China invades? And Biden said yes. That's direct. Not the political answer. That's direct. Here on COVID, Ja was pretty political, I thought. But if you kind of like look at the sentences, it sounds like he believes in masking. Masking is going to be an important tool. But he doesn't get anywhere into political will, nor does he get to personal will. Hence, you get to that interview or you listen to that tape again and you say, what the heck is he talking about? Because this is why I've devised my own test. I went to a party this week. I haven't gone to a party in more than 2 years. I guess that makes me a social dud. But I didn't go to a party in 2 years, and I trust I'm going to go to more parties based on, well, if anyone invites me. Also, if there's something worth going to that I think is up to my standard, my public health standard. And what this means is we got to have our little data points ready. I went to a party with 50 people, the majority of whom I don't know, but since they're mostly school teachers, I would assume most were vaxxed and boosted, and it was outdoors. But that's not why I decided to finally leave my gong closet here, where I do my micro talk show. After 2 years, of being here, I really just thought it was time to be face to face with people. Time to be human again, safely. So here's what bothers me. I had a mask. I held it in my hand. And not seeing anyone else wear a mask, I put it back in my pocket, where it stayed. I know. Why, Emil? Why? Well, no one else was wearing one. Yeah. Well, so if everyone was jumping off the cliff, would you jump with them? I mean, you just follow what everyone does? Yes, I guess I do. And this is the point. No one ever talks about this one thing that gets to people during these semi-post-COVID times. The social conformity to the group. Social conformity. Yeah, go along to get along. I mean, it's really the enemy of independent thought, don't you think? Social conformity. I mean, and it was so instinctive. I hate it because if I had stuck to my guns all throughout the pandemic, you'd think that maybe I'd stick to my guns now. I mean, I didn't see another mask, so I didn't wear a mask. I was just trying to fit in. I didn't go through my checklist of things that I go through to say, well, is this safe? Is this not safe? And I regret my mask decision, right? I really should have known better. I mean, there I was hugging people. I was shaking hands. And then in horror, I put my hand out and oh my God, I'm shaking his hand. It was shocking to me. I should have thought about the 1 million who died in the US. You know, I didn't want to add to the list. I should have thought about my old friend Corky Lee, the only person I know who died of COVID, who was not the coincidence of COVID and another comorbidity. Should have thought about it because that's real. What I needed was my own data source to inform my personal choice and help me understand my risk. And so when I got home, I devised my Emil Amok 5-question test on mask wearing. Here are the 5 questions. Are you vax boosted and symptom free? Yes, no. Yes. 1 for the S's. Are the majority in the gathering vax and boosted? Yes. 2 for the S's. Is proof of vaccination required for attendance? No. All right, so I got 2-1. Do you trust the word of guests and hosts? No. All right, so there's 2-2. Is it outdoors? Yes. 3-2. The more yes votes, you go. Actually, I just changed my vote. Do you trust the word of the guests? No. That would be 3-2. No's win. Still, you know, it's kind of close. See, I mean, but at least we got some data. So here, if I got some data to take my mask out of my pocket, and if I want to stay, put it on. If the yes had won, it would be close. I'd be there, but I'd still mask. So you'd say, Emil, what does this do? Well, I can go on something besides, oh, I just feel like I can stay here. I can go to this thing, or I can put on a mask or not put on a mask. I have some facts that I know to determine my position. And here are 2 other qualitative questions to help me make my decision more binding. Question 6, is it a once in a lifetime event? Well, this one, kind of yes, but kind of no. No. 4-2, no. Number 7, do I want to risk my life for this event? No. That's 5-2. I should have stayed home. But you know, this is the thing about these tests. These tests are for your entertainment purposes only, as they say. But it's also to just help you see where your feelings are. I wanted to go celebrate my friend. I went. My wife and I went. We used the questions as a guide. But if I had this before, I could say, here's why I'm here. I know why I'm here. These are some facts that I used. Now, you can help yourself. I'll put this on the ALDEF blog tomorrow or today, later today, aaldef.org/blog. But consider this. Got a lot of weddings, June weddings. We got some graduations. I got a reunion. There are sporting events, not of a professional championship, maybe sporting events of your kids' league Those can be once in a lifetime. I mean, you have your own list of the kind of events that are can't miss. But for me, even when I'm hell-bent on going to something, the questions give me data to understand my personal will. Remember, the question that the PBS guy posed of Ashish Jha was, do the politicians have the political will? But do we have the personal will to do what's right? To do what's right for the public? Run through the questions. If you run through the questions, you know you'll have some data. And you won't simply conform to shallow notions of appearance and peer pressure, which is a bigger problem than you think. You'll have some data. You'll say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I'm wearing my damn mask. And this is why when I got home, I ordered new N95s because, you know, the N95s were in short supply and we had KN95. Now we got N95s. They arrived today. I bought more in tests. I got more N95s. I'm ready. Chances are I'm going to mask and I'm going to test and I'm going to give myself some information before I make a decision that could impact others and impact me. I just want to make sure that I'm doing things for a good reason and not simply conforming. Everyone's not wearing masks and I'm not wearing a mask. No. If I got data that says I should wear a mask, I am wearing a damn mask. I've got my protocols. I got it down. And if it can help you do more than blindly conforming to public pressure, because believe me, I know after the party I went to this weekend, I'm just glad that I know that most of those people there were masked or were vaxxed. They weren't masked, but they were vaxxed and most of them were boosted. And they were telling me that a lot of people probably who weren't boosted canceled, as they should, because if they weren't masked and boosted, I didn't want to see them there. So some of those people I knew, they weren't there. But if you follow my 7 questions, at least you'll know why you should or shouldn't go, or why you should or should be masked. Hell with conformity, right? Now, I feel really strongly about that because a lot of people conform. A lot of people just willingly just say, they're not masked. I'm not going to be masked. I don't want to look like that. I don't want to look like that guy. And so, but see, I don't mind a mask. I think it's rather appealing, rather alluring. It could be. Why not? I mean, and they won't notice the whisker I missed or anything. I mean, I think it's fine to be masked. Okay. Just don't let it rub against your microphone. All right, so I hope my little, it's not a quiz, it's not a COVID quiz, but it's a, mass survey to see if you should mask. I wish I'd had it before. I'm using it for everything going forward. Like I made a decision to travel based on my 7 questions. The tough one is it a once in a lifetime thing? And is it worth it if you contract COVID? Not that, who knows if we're going to, get something that, we're dealing with something that's killer. That's the thing. Even with everyone boosted, we got variants, we got all these other things now going on. I just think having data is more helpful than falling to peer pressure, falling to conformity, which is easy to do. All right, now I talked about Buffalo the other day, and we were off on Friday, but this poll dropped on Saturday. It's a Washington Post poll that said Black Americans fear more racist attacks after the Buffalo shooting. This was a Washington Post Ipsos poll. 2 years after George Floyd's murder, nearly 8 in 10 Black Americans say there has been little or no improvement in how police treat Black people. That's a lot. 8 in 10. And then fearing more racist attacks on top of that, not just the police shootings. So this is a significant poll. And I mention it because chances are you might have missed this in the Saturday paper. I mean, it was kind of dumped in the Saturday paper. Maybe you saw it if you subscribe to the Post. I didn't see a whole lot of pickup from other news sources, but believe me, this is concerning because this is Black Americans after Buffalo. But I think you can transpose some of these things. If they asked this of Asian Americans, I think it would mirror what the Black Americans felt about Buffalo. If they asked Asian Americans about how do you feel about Atlanta? How do you feel a year after, and like I said in my ALDEF column, aldef.org/blog, I just feel like you see the 10 victims in Buffalo, they could have easily been Asian Americans, especially when the shooter, in this case, Peyton Gendron, was using the Great Replacement theory as his justification. He was a low-level kind of racist, using anti-Black slogans on his guns. I mean, that's very basic racism. He saw things in terms of black and white. But in terms of immigration, in terms of replacement theory, you got to look at immigration, and then that expands it to include Asian Americans and Latinx folks. And now you know how this wasn't just a Black thing. And to think of it as just a Black thing, I think limits the scope of how deep this racism is. I mean, I respect the polling and the numbers, and I'm not doubting the numbers. I'm just saying this was not just a Black-white thing. This includes Asian Americans, Latinx. That's why if you were to compare some of these findings about Black Americans, I think you'd say, you opened up to everyone. I think you'd find that Asian Americans and Latinx people are just as fearful of the Great Replacement theory and of the white racists who are out there, who are out there espousing these conspiracy racist theories. But here's the findings from Black Americans. 3/4 of Black Americans are worried that they or someone they love will be attacked because of their race, according to a nationwide Washington Post Ipsos poll conducted after a gunman killed 10 people at a Buffalo supermarket, allegedly targeting members of the mostly Black neighborhood. The Post Ipsos poll of Black Americans finds most are saddened and angered by the attacks, but just 8% say they are surprised. Even before the shooting and earlier poll questioning, Black people saw racism as one of their greatest threats. And after the attack, only 10% think the problem of racism will improve in their lifetimes. Only 10%. That is sad. While 53% majority think it will get worse. That is pretty bad. 10%, only 10% are optimistic, think it's going to be solved in their lifetimes. I can look back with some people 45 years at some things. That's a lifetime. And have things improved race-wise? I don't think so. This is the problem. We get these momentary glimpses of some kind of ideal present, when some good news happens. But for the most part, those good feelings are marred by moments like Buffalo, like moments like the Atlanta spa killings, like all the instances of Stop AAPI hate that have really impacted more than 11,000 people. I mean, this is a serious thing in our country. And I'd be curious if they pose this question broadly to not just blacks, but to all people, to see how it would break down. And to really do a poll where the sample size would give you a relatively, just a reliable number on Asian Americans and Latinx. So here's another eye-opening question. 7 in 10 Black Americans think at least half of white people hold white supremacist beliefs. That's a large majority of people. 7 to 10 blacks. They see white people and they believe that half of whites hold white supremacist beliefs. I mean, when you think of that, I mean, after you see what the GOP has done on race, how can you blame black people for having those feelings? Here's one other question. Most black people say access to guns, personal family, and upbringing and social media contribute a great deal to people committing hate crimes against black people. It said most blacks believe that. They believe a great deal or a good amount. And it's usually like in the 80% range, which is extremely high. And then one last one. Few black Americans say attention to George Floyd's killing resulted in better treatment by police. 8% said a great deal, 11% said a good amount, 38% said a little, and 41% said not at all. So this is just a state of where a snapshot in time, right? How black people feel about the Buffalo shootings. This is done after the shootings by the Washington Post and Ipsos. And I think it's a plus or minus, a poll of 806 black adults with a margin of error of plus minus 4.5%. I think it's significant. What it says is we're a long way from being near any kind of ideal race situation in America. Well, you knew that already, right? I mean, but there's always hope, right? You see people singing together on the music shows. You see mixed marriages. You see people coming together, and you have hope that, we've come a long way. And then, Buffalo happens and you say, boy, it's day to day, case by case. We cannot generalize. Can't generalize for the good in America. We're always on our toes because that's just the state of our country right now in 2022. All right, just a couple things before we leave for today. American Idol. I want to talk about that. I mean, I look at American Idol as kind of like a nostalgic thing because, we watch it with our kids. Been through a lot of seasons. 21 seasons now? Something like that. And, they looked at all the songs that have been big over the last 20 or so years. The only one that really has, USA Today did this, the only song that just struck me was Philip Phillips' Home. The kind of anthemic Home, and then maybe that one by Kelly Clarkson, which was the top. But those two were the only ones, and the rest, I don't know if this American Idol, Noah Thompson, who is from Kentucky, is going to be a big star, but as big a star as people like Daughtry or Scotty McCreery, definitely a country kind of guy. But there were a lot of talented folks in this batch. I think Noah Thompson, I don't know if he deserved to win, but he's going to be good. And the value of this show, when you bring them all together, you get the country voting. It's a big country. And look at the top three. Noah Thompson. There was someone named Hunter Girl from Tennessee. So you had Kentucky and Tennessee, the Mid-South. Hunter Girl, her name is Hunter, and her last name is something like Wozniowski or something. So I guess that's her stage name, Hunter Girl. She was okay. Not great, but okay. She finished second. Third place was my pick, Leah Marlene, who was a great singer. But, all these people are like works in progress, blossoming before our eyes. And in terms of American Idol, they've got to get brushed up and lose 10, 15 pounds, only because that's what Idol is about, right? I mean, Adele didn't gain 30 pounds after she won. She lost, after she had her first hit, she lost some weight. I'm not trying to be, fattest. I have friends who are large. I just think that when people consider the idea of an American Idol, they do think about things like size, which good or bad, that's just, when you buff up the image. Look, Carrie Underwood, look at her when she won. Buff her up, and there she is, Carrie Underwood. So I like the show because it tells you something about corporate stage worthiness and corporate performance. And if you go into that line, that's your thing, right? You see it in the judges, Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, right? Who is buffed and polished, but he knows the game. All the judges, Luke Bryan, who's from the same hometown as Philip Phillips. I mean, my God, and Buster Posey, Lee County, Georgia. There's something about Idol that cuts to the core of what America's about. I mean, I think this year sort of tells it, because you didn't see any African Americans in the final five. You didn't see any Asian Americans. You didn't see any Latinx. It's America. And good or bad, Mid-South country. There were some good singers, though, in the top 10. Some good singers who came back, in the finale to sing. That guy, Mike, I forget his last name, African-American country singer. Great voice. So people are calling me. They're not supposed to call me. Is that Mike calling me? Saying, what the hell? So, I mean, I'm putting out my idol choice was Leah Marlene because I thought she was a great singer. But she wasn't buffed up enough to be the idol. And she didn't sing a good enough Springsteen song, which I thought was a weird choice for a finals night because Springsteen is so unique. How do you make someone so unique? How do you do a cover of a Springsteen song? And of course, the top winners did the best covers. I mean, did the songs that were coverable, like, Dancing in the Dark. That's a coverable song. Leah Marlene chose some song that was not coverable, but she sang it. Hunter Girl did a song that was coverable. She did Dancing in the Dark. And Noah Thompson sang I'm on Fire, which is a ballad, a hit that's coverable. So I think Leah Marlene lost by bad song choice there. But here's the thing. If you finish in the top 10, at least this year, everyone's going to have a shot to go out and be their performance dream artist, right? They have a shot to make it, because I don't think anyone is so head and shoulders above. Some of them in the top 10, Nicolina. Wow, what a voice she had, but she did not make it to. She made it to the top 5, but not to the top. She didn't make it to the top 3. So I thought it was a good idol, but it says something about America. America is this white mid-South country kind of country, and you didn't see that diversity that you'd see in past idols, which is why I don't want to be too hard that Idol brought back William Hung. I did initially, because William Hung, if you Google my name and William Hung, I've written a lot about William Hung in the past 12 years. About how he is kind of a kind of disgrace to go out there and ply his trade on the Asian American stereotype, the Asian American step and fetch it stereotype. And now what he's doing is saying, hey, we got all these Asian immigrants, and I'm your model. You can go out there and be who you want to be and risk getting laughed at. So he's taken the stereotype and used it to his advantage. And suddenly the stereotype that was anti-Asian is now being seen as pro-Asian. Is that possible? William Hung has changed and is now pro. This is the way Asian Americans are. I think we could do without it. And yet American Idol always seems to want to trot him out there every couple years to say, we stop making fun of people, stop trying to be and try just to be positive, but we can't help but put out William Hung and letting him sing She Bangs. So that would be my only complaint about this year's American Idol, except maybe William Hung is not negative so much, but he's a positive thing, a role model to Asian Americans that it's okay to do bad karaoke, because look at William, have the courage, have the guts to go out there and be laughed at. I think that's the new way. Is that the revised way of looking at William Hung? I hope not. And one last thing about the Golden State Warriors. I'm a big Warrior fan. I went to all the games, and I went to the very, very first Mavericks games when I was in Dallas. So, a slight conflict, but not really. I'm a Warrior fan. They played great on Sunday. Andrew Wiggins is now emerging, and I think they're up 3-zip against the Mavs. They're going to probably win the fourth game. I hope they don't have a letdown on Tuesday. I hope they decide, let's win this, go home and rest because we're banged up. And then the Heat and the Celtics are going to get banged up because they're playing very physically. And just when you think the Celtics are out of it, the Heat come back. So now their game 3 is tonight, I think. Or what game is this? Well, they're playing tonight. I just know that the Celtics look like I thought the Heat looked like they were going to lose the other night, and the Celtics folded and won. So I think those two are the Celtics and Heat are it's going to be war of attrition. Whoever wins, and it probably will go six games, at least 6, possibly 7. If the Warriors can take care of things on Tuesday and then relax, that would be the best thing. I think the Warriors have a great chance of being champions again. What astonishes me is that there are people who don't like the Warriors, and I don't understand that, because you should be looking at the Warriors saying, "Boy, they play well." I mean, the one thing is, if you watch just the highlights where they're always making shots, then when you're in games and they're missing, you sort of lose a sense of proportion, right? Because even 3-point shots, you're making like 30 to 40% and missing, right? You're missing 60, 70% of your shots. So if you're just seeing the highlights, they're always going in. But if you see a full game, you see the struggle, and you see how even when it appears like they're mediocre at just 30 or 40%, they win the game because they play smarter than the other team. So I just, hats off to the Warriors. I hope they have it in them to win one more game in Dallas so they can rest, as opposed to losing in Dallas and coming home for a game 5 and 6, and they need the rest. So I hope they get the rest. And if they win game 4 on Tuesday, I'm saying the Warriors all the way. Okay, so now we come to that part of our show where we've gone through the news, we've been meditative, and now we think about things. Think about, how you feel about yourself. If you're worthy, some people don't feel worthy, they feel a sense of shame. I mean, that was the thing about going out to this party this weekend. I went to the party because I said, am I really afraid of COVID, or am I hiding? Honestly, I said, can it be I'm hiding? Maybe I like that. Am I hiding? Do I feel a kind of shame for what? And I thought about all these things, and I just said, no, I'm a human being. We're all humans. Human beings, we're animals. We need contact. We need to be together. So let's be together, to quote Al Green. That's a good song. Oh, that's Let's Stay Together. Okay, well, we don't have to stay until we really test things out. But no, I just said, okay, we're going to this party. We went to the party because truth is, I wanted to be with other people. I wanted to see other people, and it was good. Like I said, the only bad thought I had was, I should have worn my mask. I shouldn't have been cowed by the urge to conform and not wear a mask because no one else was wearing a mask. That's my lesson. Wear a mask. Just wear a mask. The numbers are going up. Wear a mask. To be safe, to be really safe in the public scheme of things, wear a mask. And in order to stand up and be strong, exert some self-love. Exert some loving kindness. Don't feel shame. Don't feel like you're hiding. Don't feel like you're unworthy. Show the love for others. And find the love coming back for yourself. Because that's how it works. Be concerned about others. Have some empathy for others. Hey, I'm masking up because I might give you something. And then feel the love for yourself. And so, as I feel, or as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. and may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here, show 313 in the books. Hey, check it out on YouTube, Emil Guillermo channel. Check it out on Facebook, emilguillermo.media, Facebook Live, Facebook Watch. Check it out on Twitter, @Emil Amok, and also on amok.com. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live streaming to you, and then recorded all those other places, plus amok.com. Amok.com, yeah, amok.com. So, till tomorrow, Emil Guillermo here. Mahal.